Hello and welcome back to Clinic on Cue, the show where we pick the brains of everyone and anyone involved in clinical research. I'm your host, Shauna Cusack, Global Sales Manager with Atlantia. And today I'm joined by the wonderful Andrea Doolan, who is the co-founder and CEO of Atlantia Clinical Trials. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks very much, Shauna. Delighted to have the opportunity as well.
Can you tell me a bit about what led you to become the CEO of Atlantia?
I started working in clinical trials back around 1995 in the States. So my first job was in clinical trials in dermatology. Okay. And then from there I went into HIV research. I continued my career development in clinical trials, working with the APC Microbiome Ireland, and worked there for about 10 years before starting Atlantia. You know, we were doing clinical trials in the APC at the time, and it really wasn't the primary remit of the research centre. And so we recognised there was an opportunity and a niche in the market. So that's when we decided to formally spin Atlantia out and start it up. It was just a natural evolution, really.
And how many years ago is that now that Atlantia spun out?
Back in 2013.
Okay.
It does take a lot of work. It takes a lot of resilience and determination and long hours. But, you know, I love what I do. And I think as a CEO, in order to be successful, you have to love what you do.
Exactly, yeah. And the growth has been fantastic. But to start, when you spun out, how many employees did you have?
Ooh, my goodness. We started with two. So it was
Two,
Barry,
okay.
Skillington and myself. And then as we won more contracts, we hired more and more people. When you grow like that, you kind of do it in spurts.
Yeah.
So, you know, you might be in and around the 20 employees for about a year, year and a half, and then you have a significant growth spurt. Yeah. And suddenly you've got 50 new employees within, 3 months. And that's kind of crazy, really, trying to scale the business. And when you scale, it's easy to kind of lose that connection with your employees. Yeah. So, I mean, that's probably been one of the most challenging things, really, is in scaling the company and hiring more people and just kind of keeping that culture within the business,
exactly,
really.
Yeah. That family culture, and then remembering everybody's names and faces.
Yeah, and I mean, certainly there was times, especially, during COVID, when people were starting and they were wearing face masks, and it was kind of hard to differentiate one person from another because their eyes and hair, were the only things you could really use to identify them. But, I mean, many other companies have had similar challenges, so...
Yeah. You come from a pharmaceutical background in clinical research, and can you tell us a bit about that research that you were involved in and maybe how that experience has influenced Atlantia today?
Yeah, so in my very early career, as I mentioned, the first research I was doing was in dermatology. Okay. So we were testing a lot of drug products, on things like atopic dermatitis, psoriasis, even drugs like finasteride for male pattern baldness. And so, at that point in my career, I was interfacing with the participants. Right. So I was very much involved in the recruitment and understanding, the participant burden from that perspective, their needs, what was the drivers that was going to encourage them to participate in studies, very much around the retention of the participants, ensuring they were valued, that they weren't just a study number. And then my next position from there was more in HIV research. So, this was back in 95. There wasn't as much research going on in HIV. I guess there was a lot of stigma back then attached to HIV
this
as well.
This is in the US, right?
This is in the US, okay. Yeah. So I was based in Boston at this point. A lot of the drugs we were testing were really at the early phase of their development. So it was a very exciting time to be part of research. But in that position, I got a much more clear understanding of the process around clinical trials. I was working in a lab, so the analysis of the samples. And then from that, kind of got more experience around, the development of the protocols. I was involved in various subcommittees, to really strengthen the design of the studies at the protocol level and really look at it from the participants' perspective again. And so all that really, I guess, has kind of formed who I am today.
I think having that 360 view and coming from a background where you started and to now where you are really enables you to have a better understanding of the whole process of the
Absolutely. And I think, that's what drives me really, is understanding what the sponsors' needs are and how Atlantia can deliver on that.
What are you most passionate about? And I'll ask you this from a professional and then also from a personal perspective as well.
I mean, it's all about quality. Trusting how the data is collected, how it's processed, how it's analysed, right through that whole process. So for me, that's probably one of the most important things.
High quality data, I guess, is what is involved. Yeah. What our clinical trial results are is high quality data.
Absolutely.
And then from a personal perspective?
I'm obviously very passionate about my children. I have 2 teenage kids that, I want to see them to succeed and do well as well. Yeah, and just making the most out of life, I guess. And there has been times where running the business is challenging, so, but you've got to make sure that you take that time out. And
a balance,
Yeah, and allow yourself time to recover and be kind to yourself. I'm always learning. Like, I've had to learn that, if something goes wrong, you just need to accept it, give it its time, process it, and just move on.
Okay. I think that leads us nicely into our next question. So do you have any one piece of advice for people out there looking to become a CEO, and maybe especially from a female perspective on this one as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think you obviously got to love what you do. I think that goes for anyone, regardless male or female. And I think if it's a job, you won't succeed. It has to be more than that. I think it has to be a calling, it has to be a passion. And it just takes hard work, resilience. You know, you get knocked back, you just got to pick it up and keep moving. Determination. I think it's easy to get overwhelmed and bogged down with all the nitty gritty and the detail. And it's just about having that bigger picture.
We're into the rapid fire round, so I know you're a bit nervous for this one. No need to be nervous. Okay, so one word to describe your first 10 years as CEO.
Roller coaster ride.
Favorite holiday destination?
Italy is fab. Yeah, went to Italy last summer, spent some time in Rome and Sorrento, and it was amazing.
This seems to be a trend on the YouTube channel. The last two people have said Italy as well.
I think it's, I can't think of holidays I did like 10 years ago. I've almost got to think of something I did in the last 2 years.
No, but Italy is a great answer. I would agree as well. So, okay, so winter or summer?
Summer,
You're
without a doubt.
Weather, hot weather, the sun.
I just like the long days. You feel like when you leave work, you've still got personal time, really.
Exactly,
So.
yeah. I agree. Okay, TV series or movie?
I guess I'm not a massive TV person to start with, so I'd much more prefer listening to podcasts or, you know, reading or listening to Audible or things like that.
Okay, and then favorite podcast?
Right now, I listen to Stephen Bartlett, you know, Diary of a CEO, which I think is probably a common trend throughout. I like Gary Fox. He's got the entrepreneur experience, and I'm not listening to that at the moment. And I just started a one with Fiona Carroll and Siobhan McKenna. It's very interesting as well. So I tend to focus more on the business ones.
Very good. And then last one, best way to unwind after a long, hard day's work?
I just like to go for a walk, you know, put in my buds, listen to a podcast or listen to my book. Yeah, just downtime. I even enjoy my commute home sometimes, you know. That time between leaving the office and getting home really helps me to switch off.
Okay, and I know you enjoy cooking as well.
I do enjoy cooking, and I enjoy eating the food as well.
Yeah, don't we all?
But I do, I could happily spend an afternoon, you know, chopping away in the kitchen.
So podcasts and cooking.
Podcasts and cooking.
Sounds like a lovely evening. Yeah. Okay, so next question then. Do you have a prediction for the future of the industry?
I definitely think it's going to grow substantially. I think consumers are demanding that they have the evidence to support the claims that the products are making. And so, you know, are being more selective as well in the types of products they're taking. So I think that's just going to drive, you know, the quality of science going forward. And I think regulation is really important.
Okay, yeah.
It protects the consumer and it protects the industry. And, you know, we're all consumers. We all deserve to have that knowledge and be able to access that information.
Absolutely.
And be able to make, you know, educated decisions.
Very good. Final question. If you had to do something other than work in the clinical trial space, what would that be?
Now, this point of my life, I was going to say 10 years' time, I would be sitting on the beach somewhere or hiking some mountain. It would probably be something to do in food. You know, fancy deli, you know,
a little coffee shop.
You know, with the gourmet food, but that's sourced locally.
Okay.
It's probably something along that line.
So the kind of farm to plate thing is...
Yes, yeah. But also the health and wellness. I mean, I like the idea of, you know, more functional medicine.
Okay.
And being able to offer that to, you know, the general population as well. And focus much more on prevention rather than cure. So I think there's a lot of opportunities out there. And, you know, in my next life, I think I would be doing something like that.
Do you see that there's a gap in the market then for that functional food medicine?
Definitely. I mean, the US is always a few years ahead of us. And they now have, you know, longevity clinics where you can go and talk to them about, like, how do you, you know, ensure you age successfully and healthily. And I think, you know, that's such a prime market. I mean, the population is getting older. We're all getting older. We all want to stay healthy and fitter and looking younger. And I think there's an amazing opportunity there. So, yeah.
Perfect. Great
I'll
answer.
come back someday.
Yeah. We'll see you in 10 years in your little health shop.
3 years.
I mean, big health shop. Okay, brilliant. Thanks so much, Andrea, for joining us. It was lovely to chat with you. Okay, so we've come to the end. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe below because we have plenty more content coming soon.